If you're in business and you're in a competitive market space, it's really important that you have something that defines, something that separates you from what your competitors are doing. You might want to call this your unique mechanism. And if you've listened to any of our podcasts in the past, or if you've either been a past, present, or you're looking towards being a client of ours, you'll notice one of the things that we really do want to do is figure out a way to put you on a pedestal. It's a way that we can define you and make you stand out in a competitive landscape. So today I'm going to run you through ours. And the reason that I'm doing this is for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, just to give you a bit of context as perhaps why you may want to work with us at Tradie Web Guys. And second of all, to give you some further context as about how you can go about designing your own. Alternatively, you end up being in that situation where it's a game where you're basically competing against other businesses on things that can be very expensive and essentially put you in the basket of, I'm competing with these huge budget businesses on their terms, and that's not always an easy pill to swallow for a lot of businesses, nor is it a smart pill to swallow. So today I'm going to run you through a process which we have named D.A.P.E.R, and it's obviously an acronym, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But again, I encourage you guys to have a think about what yours is, and certainly take a bit of time in defining that. So that takes us to the first part, which is D, and that's define. So what I'm going to show you here, guys, this is a framework that we lay over everything that we do. When a client comes into us, we apply this framework to them through a series of different processes, but this sort of stands overarching everything. The first step of defining is really, really critical, because essentially this is the research stage. This is where we really dive deep and we define what exactly the company's current position is. And more importantly, we define what the company's goal is, where they actually want to end up. Now, this is an interesting process because very often during this part of the process, we unveil critical things and critical outcomes that the business may not potentially be aware of in the early stages or when they come to us initially. And if you parlay that to your own experience in your own business, you'll probably have something similar to relate to. For example, somebody might come to you because they've lost pressure in their taps, and the immediate assumption is that there's an aerator that's blocked. But then on further research, you figured out that the pressure valve on the hot water heater is blown. So this is the research stage, right? At this point in time, we find out, okay, well, what are the assets that the company has? What's working, what isn't working, and where are some of the opportunities that lie with what they've currently got developed so that we can expand on it to take advantage of some of those opportunities, because very often they are what we would consider low-hanging fruit. So there's often there's a lot of opportunity very often in developing and scaling a lot of existing projects, and then building on top of that with further programs. So define is the first step. The A stands for articulate. Now, once we've defined clearly what the business wants, what their goals are, then we can start designing what that solution looks like. Now, it's an important thing to, I suppose, proclaim that we are an agency that has evolved over the years into offering many different things, many different services, many different products, but that all sort of revolve around the marketing space. And the reason for that is simple. When businesses used to come to us when we only did websites, and they would say, I would ask them, well, why are you here? Why are you speaking to us? Why now? And they would very often say, well, we've come here because we want our phone to ring more. Now, the website is obviously the first part in that process, but the website alone will very rarely make your phone ring off the hook. It's normally the marketing that's plugged into the back of the website that normally delivers the leads. So we learned very early in the piece that, in order for us to be able to deliver on what our clients want, sure, we have to offer the website as a foundational product, but then we also have to figure out a way to drive traffic to those websites. So that led us into marketing. Now, I would be very careful in this process as to adding too many things into your repertoire, because that old saying of if you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to anyone, can ring true. So I do strongly recommend that you stay niched with things, but just be smart about how you do it. If there's complementary things you can add in, which specifically speak to the actual outcome, the actual goal of the client, then that is something you should put into consideration. Because at the end of the day, the client typically doesn't care if it's a website or marketing, they just want the result. So don't get caught up with the thing, get caught up with the outcome. So the articulate stage is very important, because that's where we essentially start recommending and designing the solutions. And it's very often solutions, plural, there's not more than one of them, that are going to help that customer get to where they want to go. So then in the next stage of D.A.P.E.R, there's the plan. Now, planning is essentially, once we have all the solutions put together, we know what they are, we know what products we need to be developing, if we're going to go build a website, if we're going to get content into creation, if we've got to get the SEO campaigns up and running, Google Ads campaigns deployed, we've got to get their marketing CRM developed, whatever it might be. That's the stage when we really put that into a plan, to a strategy. Because it's important that when we are defining what that plan looks like, it is speaking to an outcome that does not yet exist. You're looking into the future here and you're reverse engineering it. So you're essentially saying, well, if we need to get to here, these are the steps that we need to take in order to do so. So a lot of it's laying foundations, but it's really important that there is a strategy and there's a plan. And the plan can include, and often does include, things like, well, what's our 12-month content strategy going to look like, which ties into our keyword strategy for our SEO campaign. And what is the on-page content that we need to have living on the website right now, and what is the content that we're going to be adding to that website over time throughout the lifespan of the campaign, so on and so forth. So the strategy is really, really important. And you will find, and many of you probably have experienced situations where there are certain agencies out there that will work with websites, but they won't do SEO, or they'll work with Google Ads, but they won't do websites. And it becomes a whole game then of pointing the finger. Well, they were going to do this and they didn't, so it's their fault. Or he was going to do this and they didn't, so it was their fault. And so we at Tradie Web Guys, we just take everything under the banner and we do it all, because that way we can control the entire process for you guys, and there's no finger pointing. It's just, we can get everything working and gelling together, and it just makes everything so much easier. Down the track, we'll be adding in things like social media and all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's not there yet, but it will be. We will evolve into that, because we are very agile. The planning part of this process is very important, and the difference between working with an agency who can plan across different products and services and one that can plan just the one, like we can just build your website, that's great, but that's not going to help you get the result. If the result is you want traffic and you want the phone to ring and you want more work, then that plan needs to incorporate that. The next part of the process is execute. So essentially, this is where the development stage begins. This is where things go into production. So websites start getting built, content starts getting created, SEO tasks start getting delivered on, CRM activities start happening, which could mean things like migrating in databases. It could mean building funnels and automations. It could be deploying checklists. It could be a number of different things. But essentially, the execution stage comes directly after the plan and the strategy, because you are starting to execute on the strategy that's been developed. And the final stage of the process is review. Now, this is one of the most important parts of this entire strategy, because essentially what we're doing here is we're creating benchmarks, and we're establishing things that we can improve on and improve from. So if you don't do the review stage and you don't have key metrics which you're dialing in and you're working towards improving, it's almost impossible for you to gauge success and gauge progress. We've developed a super comprehensive reporting strategy, and in truth, that reporting strategy is there for us. We give our clients access to it, but we need that reporting strategy, because if we don't have a clearly defined understanding of what that campaign is progressing like, what's working, what isn't, how can we possibly know what to remove, what to add in, what to tweak, what to split test, so on and so forth. So the review stage is extremely important. And then once the review stage has been completed for, say, a certain period of time, which in most cases is monthly and quarterly, then it goes back into the whole production loop. So then it goes back into, okay, well, let's plan this, let's execute on that plan, and then let's review that. And then it goes back into the plan, planning, let's execute it, and then we review and we report again. So it becomes like a little circle there, which is always moving, right? So that's the strategy that we define as D.A.P.E.R. It's been an ongoing evolution, in truth, over the last 10 years of running the agency, but it's something that works fantastically well. And we've got a complete team of experts and marketing specialists across all different areas, which all come to the party with this process, and they represent different areas. Maybe it's web development, maybe it's SEO, maybe it's content creation, perhaps it's Google Ads campaigns, whatever it is. But we pull all this experience from all of our expert leadership, and we pull it all into this one campaign, which is designed specifically to help our clients get the results that they want to get. So I hope that helped, guys. I look forward to seeing your unique mechanism. That's all from me. If you want to get hold of us, reach out to tradiewebguys.com.au. Fill in one of the forms there and someone will get in touch with you. Thanks, folks.